see the bridge open. It is typically in the open position as maritime traffic takes a precedence over rail traffic. So that sailboat is probably going to do one more donut and then pass us under the bridge. So that'll be a fun thing to see. After we pass under the bridge, as I said, we're going to cut to the right, head on into the chamber. You might feel us nudge the wall when we get into the narrowest part. That's pretty natural, but you're going to go from being a spectator to the attraction. A lot of people come down to the locks to watch the boats pass through and wave to people on the boat. So put on your best smile. You might end up being in a photo or on somebody's social media page. It's just really a fun part of the process. But once Nate has us tied up to the wall and we are settled in the chamber, I'll come back on the microphone at that time and tell you all about the locks, how they work, why they're here, and some fun facts about them. But I'm going to pause to get us in position in the chamber. So in we go.
走小的还是走大的？最左边这个是大的，这个是小的。
那是大的，
对，
小。
你看它上面有写啊。
我们应该是要走小的。
你看它上面有写啊 ，small line。
当然，驶进去之后，后面的闸门会关起来。那水真的会有变化吗？
对啊。这边是淡水。 哇，深圳内里，然后那边是 Pacific。
很冷哎。你看，妈，
我们以前来这边就是在上面跟人家喝水。
你看哦，这是水藻，那不是水藻。
对，那边水藻，
因为条条粉一样。
这是自然科学教的。
然后后面的，
我看一下。哎呀，后面还有一个闸门，他会把后面的闸门关起来，然后就开始放水。
可是这样子差那么多要放很久哎。
所以要等一下，真的要放很久。你看它现在水位，
那边。哦，你看那边它超高。
然后那边的水位。
闸门上面有。
Here we are. We have arrived at the highlight of our tour in the small chamber of the Hiram Chicken Locks. Welcome, everybody. And we are, as I said, what they call inbound. Nate has us tied up to the wall, and they're closing the gates behind us. Pretty interesting thing about transiting through the small chamber from saltwater to freshwater. A lot of people wonder how much we're going to raise when we're in the chamber, and that's completely dependent upon the tides. We have 4 tidal exchanges a day, 2 highs and 2 lows. And so it can be as little as 6 feet or as much as 26 feet. So it's going to be a pretty quick locking. We're at a fairly high tide. And the other thing that's interesting about transiting through the small chamber versus the large chamber, if you're on the main deck, you saw Nate lean out and do a couple lines from the boat to the bollard on the wall, and then he stood back and he said the wall will float up real fast. Whereas in the large chamber, Nate and Kurt would have to be at the bow and the stern, and they would have to, as they say, I'm doing air quotes, stand by their line and pull it in as we rise up in the chamber. So really quick, efficient thing to get to go through the small chamber. I talked about the 2 different chambers, large chamber on the left, the port side of the vessel, at 825 feet in length by 80 feet wide, with midway gates down the center to divide it in half. The small chamber, 150 feet in length by 30 feet wide. And you're still at saltwater level, so you can't see much. So I'll talk about what's happening, and then I'll talk about the sights and things around the chamber when you can see them. So there's a couple different reasons, 3 reasons the locks are here. It boils down to 3 reasons. They separate the fresh water from the salt water. The locks were here. Vessels the size of the Good Time 3 couldn't travel between these 2 bodies of water, so it opened up for that. And we're going to go by quite a bit of commerce that was non-existent before the locks. And the locks control the lake level to a constant 20 to 22 feet above sea level at all times, and you'll see why that is super important when we transit through the Fremont Bridge with inches above my wheelhouse. As a matter of fact, Nate will have to climb up on top of the wheelhouse and lower the flag and antennas so we fit under with, just a few inches above the radar. So that's kind of a fun and exciting thing. And the cost for operating the locks is funded in a couple different ways. There's a marine vehicle excise tax that we pay and separate tax tacked onto that. And then they're also funded by the Department of Defense. And so those 2 things dictate what we call a priority system for the types of vessels that get to go through when there's multiple vessels that want to transit through. And on a busy summer day, there could be hundreds that want to get through and go out to the San Juan Highlands or come back up to the lake and see the fireworks. And so they have to prioritize. Top priority goes to government vessels that have an emergency, need to get through quickly, such as supply boats to fight a fire, police boats, to commercial passenger vessels on scheduled trip, which is us. Third priority commercial boats like fishing boats, tugs and barges, these commercial craft, and fourth, recreational pleasure craft. And then after that, kayaks, canoes can also transit through the locks. And they're one of the top attractions right up there with space in the Pike Place Market and the Argosy boats. And they have been in this operation since their official dedication, which was on July 4th of 1917. And so they're over 100 years old and everything above and below the water surface was original, but they worked to transform all the mechanisms to modernize them. But now you can see the beautiful grounds off to the left, the port side of the vessel. I'll talk about the big square building first. That's the administration building, and it was designed by a notable architect named Carl Gould that Hiram Chipman brought in to design that along with these operating houses and other little structures. And he was a prestigious East Coast guy that brought some wonderful design expertise. And when he was done with the buildings here, he went on to become the professor of architecture at the University of Washington, one of our state schools here in the state. But behind that building is a visitor center that you can go and watch a really cool video. And during the summer months, I believe, sign up for a walking tour with fabulous docents that will walk you back and forth over the chamber gates. But those sit in the middle of a botanical garden named the Carl S. English Botanical Gardens. And there's over 500 species of plants from around the world, and a beautiful green grassy area, hilly grassy area. The hill is made up from the dredgings of the ship canal that created locks in the waterway that we're going to go through. And then off to the right or starboard side of the vessel, there's a fish ladder and spillway dam. Spillway dam is controlled the lake level that we'll be in just a couple minutes. Okay, the gates are opening. This is a really exciting moment. And once they're open, we'll get permission to exit the locks. And you'll all be graduates of the Hiram Chipman Locks. And we're going to be entering a freshwater bay called Salmon Bay that comes with folklore. It was once believed there were so many salmon that you could walk across their backs to get from one side of the water to the other. We have 5 species of salmon that pass through the locks twice in their life, once when they're baby fingerlings. And between the months of June and October, so I think we're done seeing them come back home, as we say, by way of the fish ladder to the right. And so it starts kind of early summer, late spring, where we will see them jumping in front of us. And the locks, along with the Muckleshoot tribe, monitor the numbers and make sure that they know about our salmon population and repopulating. Oh gosh, I'm not sure if I'm going to say it correctly, but they keep track of the numbers here, which is really important. Us Northwesterners are very passionate about a few things, and that is our fish, our trees, and our water, and our air. And they all kind of co-mingle with each other. It's kind of a very synergistic thing. You may or may not know that salmon they're anadromous. They're one of the few species of fish that they live between freshwater and saltwater. So they're born in the freshwater rivers ahead of us, and then depending on the species, they'll go back to the exact same spot to lay their eggs, spawn, and become part of the earth again. So there's that. Nate has us free of our lines, and he's got maybe a couple more deckhand duties to tend to, and then he'll be back on the microphone to pick the tour back up and talk about the freshwater side of things. So I'm going to sign off, but I hope you enjoyed my narrative of the locks. I certainly enjoyed giving it. Thank you so much. Off we go.